Okay, so let's start with the explanations about um, yesterday's videos. Okay, so I will explain appropriately about the topics that you have learned on the pre-recorded videos yesterday. Okay, so let me share the slide first. Okay, can you see the slide?
Yes.
Right, so the topics for this week is the properties of the electromagnetic wave. Okay, properties of the electromagnetic wave. That this is the learning outcomes, which is the first is to describe the spectrum of the electromagnetic wave, and actually these learning outcomes uh, contribute to the two chapters, which is chapter 21 and also chapter 24. Okay, chapter 21 and also chapter 24. Chapter 21, we will only learn in 21.11 and also 21.12.12, which is the properties of electromagnetic wave and the spectrum of the electromagnetic wave. Okay, right? So properties, spectrum, and we will also learn about some things in the chapter 24.9, just the chapter 24.9, because we will learn about polarizations of the light wave. Okay, this is a new topic for you, polarizations. Okay, in this topic we will learn about to state the directions of the propagations, describe and distinguish the polarized and unpolarized light. Okay, and also to identify intensity obtained by the linearly polarized, and lastly to apply the Malus law. Okay, what is the Malus law? Alright, so this is the properties of electromagnetic wave. So the induced electric and magnetic fields are in phase. Okay, look here. Okay, if you have an electromagnetic wave, okay, you can see that this is the electric field. Okay, electric field. And also this is the magnetic field, where the electric field and magnetic field is perpendicular to each other. Okay, perpendicular to each other, and both are in the same directions of motion. That means electric field and magnetic field are um, propagating. Okay, the words is propagating. Wave, okay, propagates. Okay, propagates means move forward. Okay, move forward. Okay, the characteristics of the transverse wave. Okay, as you learned in the past semesters, what is the transverse wave? Okay, so I may not but do some what should we call that, revisions in terms of transverse wave, because the difference between transverse wave and longitudinal wave is just with how they form. Okay, how can they transfer from one point to another point? Okay, in the transverse wave, it moves like a sinusoidal graph. It moves like a sinusoidal ups and down, but it's still moving forward. It still propagates to forward. But for the longitudinal wave, it moves like a caterpillar. Okay, caterpillar, simple like a caterpillar, or a slinky spring. You can see that the electromagnetic wave is a transverse wave. Obviously, it's a transverse wave. Okay, and it contribute by the electric field and also magnetic fields. Okay, and EMF can also be thought as a plane wave, or sometimes you can call that as a plane wave. And a plane electromagnetic wave is a wave traveling from a very distant source. Okay, when we talk about the electromagnetic wave, we should know that it comes from a very far or very distant source. Okay, and notice that in the figure, the electric fields in the y directions. Okay, can you imagine where is the Y? Figure electric field is in the Y. When you look at the Cartesian coordinates, electric field is in the Y. Okay, this is in the Y. Okay, while for the magnetic field is in on the Z direction. That Z means is in the here. Okay, seolah-olah macam baring macam tu kan. Okay, so it is in the Z direction while the electric field is on the Y direction. But it propagates, okay, it moves in both electric field and magnetic field, both moving in the X directions. Okay. So this is also the properties of the electromagnetic wave, okay, which we learn about. The EM wave move with the speed of light. Okay, speed of light. What is speed of light here? Okay, we always use 3 times 10 power of 8 meter per second, but the exact value is here. Okay, it's C equivalent to 2.997. But obviously, if you use this value, is considered okay. Okay, but how can we derive the speed of light? So it's using mu naught and also epsilon naught. Okay, a permeability and also permittivity of the medium which is travel. Okay, if for example, EM wave travels in the some medium, so that medium will have its own permeability and also permittivity. So that is considered as here mu naught and also epsilon naught. Where the mu naught is 4 pi times power of -7, you can have this value inside the magnetism topics. And epsilon naught, okay, we also learn about epsilon naught 8.85 10 power of -12. Okay, that is in the if you notice in the capacitors, okay, in the capacitance and how to define the capacitor, like for example, C equivalent to epsilon naught A over D. Okay, this is epsilon naught. So the value is 8.85 10 power of -12. And then will give you 3 times 10 power of -8 meter per second. Okay, and the Maxwell, the physicist, also proved that the ratios of the magnitude of electric field and the magnetic field is equivalent to the speed of light. Okay, this is very good argument about electric field and the magnetic field, because the electric field and magnetic field, when the ratios or divide the electric field divided by the magnetic field, it also can give you the speed of light. Okay, so this should be the spectrum of the EM wave. Okay, the spectrum of the EM wave, which we know is based on the several frequencies, the different frequencies and also wavelength. Okay, you can see that the frequency and wavelength is actually inversely proportional. It's like an inverse proportional, because the higher is the frequency, you can look here, the higher is the frequency, the lower is the wavelength. Okay, but if the wavelength is higher, then the frequency is lower. Okay, it's inversely proportional to each other. Okay, it is known as the other forms of electromagnetic wave by the frequencies and also wavelength. You can see here, this is the region where we can see. Okay, we can see, or we can see, let's say, because of all of our side. Okay, anything that we see is based on the visible light, because of the visible light, and it's only in the very tiny range here. Okay, this is the visible light which we can see with our naked eye. Okay, because we can only see, the human can only see from 400 nanometers to about 700 nanometers. Okay, the range of the visible light is 400 to 700 nanometers. What is beyond that? What is before 400 is considered as ultraviolet. So this is ultraviolet. The UV. Okay, we always say UV. What is UV? Ultraviolet. Okay, ultraviolet means the region where we cannot see, because that occurs if we notice, if we go to outside, we go to the park, or we go outside our house, okay, during afternoon, where you can easily get threatened by the the heat, okay, heat from the sunlight. Okay, that is due to the ultraviolet UV. Okay, here. Okay, we cannot see, but sometimes it can feel the warm or can feel hot sometimes, and very dangerous. Okay, and beyond that, we can also have X-rays, and the gamma rays is very powerful because gamma and X-rays, we always see X-rays. Okay, it had a very high frequency compared to our visible range. So this is the regions of X-rays. Okay, when you took the picture, if you get promoted or you get want to enter in any universities, so that is X-ray. So that's why X-ray, you should do X-rays in the very controlled environments. You have to do it on the not just simple as the click of the cameras, but the cameras contains a very high frequencies, and also gamma rays. Okay, it can be used in the hospitals, maybe hospitals, or to cure or to cure the cancers or something like that. Okay, using the gamma rays, very high frequencies. Okay, below the visible range, we can see the infrared regions. Okay, basically what is infrared? So infrared sometimes used in the remote control. Okay, to control TV, to control the air conditioner. So that we use infrared. And the microwave. Yes, this is a micro in the slightly lower than the infrared. So this is how they do they use the frequency inside the microwave. And this is where the TVs, the radios, the AM, and lastly the long wave. And of course, when we talk about wave, so to express the velocities of when the wave travels in the medium, so we can calculate the speed. Okay, the speed is basically V equals to F lambda, where in this case we can use C equals to F lambda. Okay, where F is the frequency and lambda is the wavelength. Okay. Okay, so this is the learning outcomes for the next topic, which we will learn about polarizations. Okay, so what is the polarizations of the light wave? Okay, first of all, EM wave are the transverse wave as usual. This is the transverse wave. Okay, so electric and magnetic fields vector associated with the electromagnetic, which are right angles. So this is also a properties of the EM wave, still a properties of the EM wave. That's why when we want to talk about polarization, specifically for the polarizations, right, we should talk about EM wave. Okay, EM wave in the chapter 21. Okay, while polarization in chapter 24. In your survey textbook, but that is due to what? Because it is related to each other. Okay, EM wave and also polarizations is related because in the polarization we only took the orientations of E. That means we only consider the electric field's directions. Okay, as you know, the EM wave stands for electric field and also magnetic field. But for the polarization, we only took electric field, but not the magnetic field. So we don't consider magnetic field, although it happens to be there, but we don't consider magnetic fields. Okay, in account of how we want to use a polarizer. Okay, if you want to use a polarization, it only because of due to the electric fields only. Okay, remember we only took the directions of electric fields, the orientations of electric field. Okay, so I want to use two terms. Okay, in the electric field, you can see that you have two types of light in the electric field. Okay, this is one. Number one is I took it as A, and this is B as number two. Okay, second types of the electric fields. Okay, the one in A, okay, in A, so A is considered as electric field, but for the unpolarized light. So this is unpolarized light. This is A. Look at figure A. Okay, this is A. So this is for unpolarized light of the electric field. Okay, unpolarized light of the electric fields. Right? And how about B? B is the polarized light. Okay, this is unpolarized. Here, unpolarized, and this is polarized. How can we differentiate between polarized and unpolarized? Okay, look at the polarized. Polarized only occurs, okay, it vibrates in the same direction. Okay, same direction. That means if you notice, there is a red dot, okay, in the middle here. Red. Look at the point, red dots. Okay, so which means this red dot is actually vibrating. Okay, vibrating, but for the polarized light, it vibrates, okay, ups and down. But for the unpolarized light, it vibrates in the all directions. You can say that it's all directions. So that is the difference between unpolarized and also polarized light. Okay, now we look further. So what is polarization all about? Okay, how can we what is polarizer? Okay, what is some that we should know about polarization? We should know about how to use a polarizer. What is the applications of the polarization? But that is a different. But it's something else. But we want to know the concepts of the polarizations. Okay, the technique of for polarizing light is to use a material that transmit wave. Okay, having the electric field vector that vibrates in a plane parallel to a certain directions and absorb those waves with the electric field vector vibrating in directions perpendicular to the directions. Okay, vibrating in directions perpendicular to the directions. Okay, so it is like this. Okay, when you have a polarizer, so this is considered as polarizer. Okay, polarizer, it's like a filter. Okay, I always use this one. It's like a filter. Okay, penapis. Okay, the filter that should filter all the lights. Okay, all the EM wave, okay, that happens to transmit through them, transmit through the polarizer. So it will filter. And of course, it will filter only for the electric field, not the magnetic field. Okay, it only for electric field because that is what we consider. And if you notice here, when the unpolarized light, simple, when the unpolarized light, any unpolarized light entering or transmitting, okay, transmitting, we should use transmitting, okay, transmit transmit through the polarizer, and what happened next? It becomes polarized. Okay, it becomes polarized. How can we sure? Yes, look at how they draw it. This is the unpolarized light. Well, the only single things about electric field, after going the polarizer, it becomes polarized. Every time the unpolarized light entering a polarizer, now it will become polarized, regardless of any types of polarizer, regardless of what kind of polarizer we are talking about. Because in the polarizer itself, it contains, so you should know about polarizer. Okay, so first of all, you need to imagine that polarizer is like a filter, it's like a panapis with the transmission axis. With the transmission axis, okay. So transmission axis is like a door at the polarizer. It's like a slit, celah yang membolehkan light absorb or light transmit through the polarizer. So the unpolarized light try to enter the polarizer, and after next it becomes polarized. Okay, so you can see here that this point. Okay, what is the polarizer? Sometimes we call it as polaron. Okay, it's the material that polarize light. Okay, this very good as it's very good terms. Polarize light through the selective absorption by oriented molecule. This oriented molecule is called transmission axis. So transmission axis is like a door. It's like a door but with a different angle. Okay, the different angle. So if you can see, if I can draw a polarizer, a bit. Okay, let's say in the front view, yeah, in the front view, we can say that this is the polarizer. In the middle, so we can see this is the transmission axis. Okay, this is the transmission axis. But sometimes they only have one place. Okay, the transmission axis is like this. Okay, sometimes the transmission axis, the slit, transmission axis is sometimes I call it as slit because it will let the unpolarized light, it will let the EM wave pass through the polarizer and becomes polarized. Simple. And because of that, sometimes, again, that's why we are saying about selective absorption. Okay, because in order to understand the concepts of selective absorption, okay, it means the EM wave should follow the oriented molecules. Okay, oriented molecules. That means whatever happens after it comes through, it go through the polarizer, it should follow the behavior of the polarizer. Let's, for example, if it comes, let's say, you have an unpolarized light like this. Okay, unpolarized light go through this polarizer, and let's say the transmission axis is here. Okay, let's say the transmission axis is like this. Okay, which is 30, theta equals to 30 degree. What happened is after it go through, it comes out from the polarizer, and of course, first thing is it becomes polarized. Okay, it becomes polarized, and the second thing is it should follow the behavior of the polarizer, which means the light that successfully go through the transmission axis, it should follows, it will become like this. Okay, it will have a 30 degrees. Okay, the light is also 30 degrees. It becomes, maksudnya dia masuk dalam keadaan macam mana pun, let's say it goes straight and it go out straight. Bila dia masuk dalam 30 degrees dan dia keluar pun 30 degrees, it will follow the transmission axis. Okay, it will follow the transmission axis. The light that passes through this sheet is polarized vertically, and the transmitted electric field vector is E naught. Okay, and the second polarizing sheet is called analyzer. So bila dia jumpa lagi satu polarizer is called analyzer. Okay, ini ada nama-nama khas dia. So the first one is called polarizer, and the second polarizer is called analyzer. So you should know the terms, because sometimes in the questions they will only ask about what happens after it comes through the analyzer. So you should know analyzer is the second polarizer. Okay, so the component of E now that is parallel to analyzer is E cos theta is allowed to pass through the analyzers. Okay, so it's simple. Okay. To make it clear in terms of how the polarization works, okay, we should know the polarization by a selective absorption. Okay, by the one is to emphasize is the intensity of the transmitted beam varies as the square of its amplitude E. Okay, in the conclude that the intensity of the polarized beam transmitted through the analyzer varies as shown in the equations of Malus. Okay, so in this case, when we talk about polarization, okay, we always talk about how the EM absorb, how EM will absorb, how EM will transmit. Okay, transmit meaning that light after it go through the polarizer. So that's why you call it transmit. Absorb when the light come through the polarizer. Sebelum dipanggil absorb, selepas kita panggil transmit, maksud dia dah melepasi polarizer. Masa dia dah lepas pintu tu, kita dah transmitted. Okay, transmitted. Right? Okay, so this expression is called Malus law. Okay, for those who cannot imagine what happens in the polarizer, look at the figures below. Okay, so let's say you have two polarizer. Okay, you have two polarizer. So look at how they behave. Okay, so this is the first polarizer with the upright transmission axis. This is also upright transmission axis, and we can have clear image of what happened, what is the beyond. Okay, apa yang ada di sebelah sana kita boleh nampak. But what happened is, if you try to change the orientations of one of the transmission axis, let's say we change the transmission axis, the analyzer, the second polarizer, yang belah belakang tu kita pusing sikit. What happens is now it becomes darker. Kita boleh nampak tapi dah kurang jelas. What happened is, look, this is the first polarizer, and when the second analyzer, when the second polarizer is called analyzer, bila analyzer becomes, in this case, let's say this is theta 0. This is, let's say, theta equals to 60, and this one theta equals to 90. So what happened is all those values of theta now we put inside here. Theta. Okay, so cos square theta, cos square 90, this one, cos square theta, this one is, although it's cos square theta, it should be calculated as cos theta square. Okay, it's as simple like that. Cos square theta, for those who know is okay. Okay, notice from this equation that the transmitted intensity is a maximum when the transmission axis are parallel. Okay, parallel, that means nombor 1 dengan nombor 2 tu sama. So 0 is equivalent to, so you can have a maximum transmitted intensity. I is considered in the Malus law. We have I equals to I naught cos square theta. So I is the intensity. Okay, in the polarization, we only want to know about the intensity. Okay, so this is the new intensity, while I naught is the original initial intensity, where the theta here is the different. Okay, the theta, please read carefully. Theta is not just the analyzer's angle untuk analyzer, no. Okay, but the theta is the different between polarizer. Different angle between polarizer. That means from polarizer 1, let's say the first polarizer is 0, okay, straight, kita kata straight, and the second one is 30. So how to get theta? Theta is 30 minus 0. Okay, 30 minus 0. But if the first polarizer is 20, and then the second one is 30, okay, 20 and 30. So that's, for example, a very good example. Let's say first polarizer transmission dia 20, second transmission dia 60. So what is the theta? Theta should be 40 degree, because that is the difference between, okay, first polarizer and the second analyzer. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, now we want to see the polarization by the selective absorption. Okay, look at these three figures. Okay, these three figures. So this first one here, look at here. Okay, let's say if you have a polarized light. Okay, this is the symbols of the polarized light, and it goes through the polarizer. What happens is, okay, now it should follow. So look at the polarizer and look at the directions of the polarizer. That means the directions of the transmission axis. Okay, so the vertically polarized, okay, asal dia duduk straight. Bila dia lalu polarizer, now it becomes it should follow the directions of the polarizer. Okay, so that is number one. So we can use I equals to I naught cos square theta. Okay, now look at the second figure, which is here. What happens if the unpolarized light go through a polarizer? Okay, look at the symbol. So this is the unpolarized light. Okay, because the electric field is in the every direction. This direction ke banyak tu. Kalau electric field macam ni, okay, dia ke bawah atas je. So this is called polarized light. Okay, kalau kita tengok on the direction dia, all directions, semua arah direction semua, that is what we call as unpolarized light. Simple. When the unpolarized light go through a polarizer, okay, we go through the polarizer. Kalau dalam case polarized light, bila go through polarizer je terus kita boleh pakai equation ni. But for the unpolarized light is something different. For the unpolarized light, it becomes like this. I is equivalent to half I naught. Simple. Okay, for the unpolarized light, okay, I should unpolarized light. For the unpolarized light, the I should equivalent to half I naught. So tak kisahlah berapa theta dia pun, it doesn't matter. Tapi of course, bila dia keluar, dia akan follow transmission axis yang terdapat pada polarizer. Itu kena faham. Okay, dia akan follow tetapi dia tidak ambil cos. Macam dalam ni ada cos kan? Ada cos. Jadi tak ada. Dia terus jadi half. Half I naught. Okay, bila dua-dua ni combine, when these both situations combine, so like this, let's say, if you have an unpolarized light, first it's unpolarized, what happens is after it go through a polarizer, it become half. So dekat sini, I equals to half I naught. Okay, ingat. So, yang masuk ke dalam analyzer ialah half I naught. Apa akan berlaku kepada akhir dia? So, I equals to half I naught. Sebab dia ialah intensity yang masuk kepada analyzer tu cos square theta. Sebab apa? Sebab cos square theta. So, theta sinilah. Sebab dekat tadi theta dia kosong. Okay. So half I naught, so dia ambil balik, dia follow, dia copy balik yang ni, masuk dekat sini, depan dia. Yang tadi, dia copy yang asal dia ialah memang ada I naught. So dia copy yang ni masuk dekat depan ni. I naught cos square theta. So sekarang ni bila dia dah unpolarized light asal dia, when we go through a polarizer, then it become half. And this value, katalah 0.5, so this value will be the intensity yang dia akan kira sebagai I naught untuk equation yang last kali. Okay. Okay, so let's look at these examples. Okay. Now we have unpolarized light is incident upon 3 polarizers. Okay, first start dengan unpolarized light. And we have 3 polarizers. The first polarizer has a vertical transmission axis. So masuk dia straight line. And the second has a transmission that have a 30 degree with respect to the first. And the third transmission axis is rotated 75 degree relative to the first. Kena baca ya betul-betul. Relative to the first. Bukan relative to the second. Maksud dia nanti kalau kita lukis. Okay, kalau kita lukis, first kosong, straight line. Second, kalau kita boleh buat macam ni, second dia ada 30. Third, straight line, 75. Okay, so daripada sinilah. Sini lalu sini, dan lalu sini. Tapi dia start dengan apa? Unpolarized light. The unpolarized light. So first of all, okay, apa yang berlaku? So soalan dia ialah, if the initial light intensity, the beam is IB. Dia bagi tahu IB, the initial light of the intensity is IB. Calculate the light intensity after the beam pass through the second polarizer, which is yang ni. Maksudnya dia suruh cari apa yang berlaku selepas ni dan apa yang berlaku selepas ini. Soalan A tanya second polarizer, soalan B third polarizer. So how can we do? Yes. So kita start dulu dengan I2. So kita bayangkan yang I yang pertama sekali ialah ni katalah I. So dekat sini ialah I2. Dekat sini okay, contoh So I0 cos square theta. Okay, tapi tadi kita cakap tadi I2 ini dekat sini dia straight away pergi kepada I2 kan. Okay, but first of all untuk I2, untuk I yang dekat sini, katalah sini I1, di sini I0 ni I0 ataupun IB, kita start dengan IB, I1, I2 and I3. Okay. So untuk IB, first of all it becomes apa? Half IB. Dia akan start dengan half IB untuk I1, dan untuk I2 pula apa yang berlaku? Okay, now the difference is 30 minus 0. So here is theta equals to 30 minus 0. It becomes 30. Okay, now we put that in I2 is what? Okay, kita ambil semua sekali di sini. Which is half IB cos square 30. Okay, cos square 30. That is the value. Then you should calculate it on your own. You should calculate it on your own. Then it will give you here. Let's say the value is 3 over 8 IB. Okay, the answer is 3 over 8 IB. And how to get to I3, which is the third polarizer? So we should use 3 over 8 IB cos square how much? Okay, now the theta is 75 minus 30. Remember, minus 30, not minus 0, because that is the difference between the second polarizer and the third polarizer. 75 minus 30 becomes 45. So we should put 45 degree here. 45 degree. And the last part is the answer is 3 over 16 IB. So that is the final answer. So you should at least try to imitate, think about these examples before you want to excel in this topic. Okay, let's look at another topics. Okay, let's look at another examples. In the polarization experiment shown in our sketch, the final intensity of the beam is 0.2 I naught. Okay, the final intensity, meaning that here, okay, it already give you 0.2 I naught. I naught is the first intensity. What is the angle theta between the transmission axis of the analyzer and the polarizer? So they want to know what is the theta over here. Okay, well, the value of the theta. Okay, so first of all, remember, okay, the I here it should be half I naught, and at this part, okay, the I final is half I naught cos square theta, equivalent to 0.2 I naught. Okay, equivalent to 0.2 I naught, and now you have a 0.2 is equivalent to half cos square theta. Okay, so you can use this kind of equation, okay, which means half I naught cos square theta is equivalent to 0.2 I naught. Definitely I naught you can cancel out each other, so you can use this equation. Half cos square theta, remember, half cos theta square equivalent to 0.2. Okay, you can add up this part to get the theta that is equivalent to 50.8 degree. So you can try on your own. Okay, so that's how we determine the theta. So sometimes they want the theta, sometimes they want the how is the transmitted beam, the final intensity, for example, and sometimes they can use what is the intensity at the middle after the first polarizer. Simple. Or sometimes they will ask you to calculate the absorb. What is the absorb? What is the difference between intensity, final intensity, and the intensity after the first polarization? Sometimes they can just simply use that kind of equation, kind of questions to ask you regarding this topic. Okay, so I think we'll take a break for a few minutes before we continue with the topics of the next topic. Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay, I think, okay, now we will continue um, in the topics of the next topic. Okay, I'll share the slide. Okay, so the topics for the is chapter 22 and also chapter 23. Okay, slightly after we go from chapter 21 and a little bit of chapter 24, and now we go back to the original roots of the geometrical optics, which is chapter 22 and also chapter 23. And in this chapter, definitely you already learned the topics of optics in your secondary schools, especially in the form 4 or form 5. So I think you don't have any problems regarding this topic, okay? Because in this topic, we will talk about the nature of light, reflections, and also refraction, okay? The applications of the reflection, which is the mirror. And because of the mirror, we also learn about the difference between a spherical and also flat mirror, flat and also spherical mirrors, okay? So this is the lesson outcome. The concepts of I explain the concepts of photon and the dual natures of light. Okay, remember what is the you must use photon. You must know what is photon because it will help you for the next topics. Okay, and dual natures of light, the concepts of wavefront and rays, the laws and also the laws of reflections. Okay. So this is the natures of light, which is light has a dual nature. Light is acting as a particle, and light also acting as a wave. Particle means here, okay? It's like a biji-biji though. Okay, light is like a particle or light acting as a wave, as a sinusoidal wave. So there are two natures of light. The wave characteristic will be discussed in this chapter, which is the reflection, refractions, and also the characteristics of the applications of reflection and reflections. Okay, so biasanya untuk reflections, we will talk about mirror, and for the refraction, we'll talk about lens. Okay, the particle nature of light. So particles of light are called photons. Okay, remember the word is photon, bukan proton. Proton is a positive charge. This is photon. Okay, use the word photons means each photon has a particular energy. All right, so E equivalent to hf, where h is the Planck's constant and f is the frequency. Okay, h is the Planck constant. What is the Planck constant? So 6.63. This one is a Planck constant, and f is the frequency. Later we will learn about this, not in this topic. Okay. In some experiment, light acts as a wave, and in other, it acts as a particle. So classical electromagnetic wave. This is like I used to say. This is the EM. Okay, coming from the our topics before this. Theory provides explanations of light propagations and interference. Okay, where the experiments involving the interactions of light will matter best by explaining, assuming light is a particle. Okay, light has a number of physical properties, some associated with wave and others with particles. Okay, so when we talk about light, we can say that light acting as a particles. Okay, some according would like if we are saying that light acting as a particle, okay, we should remember about photons. Okay, well, when light travels as a wave, so you should know there is also other properties that contribute to light as a wave. Okay, the process of reflection and refraction can occur when the light traveling from one medium, okay, from one medium, remember the words medium is very important here, encounters a boundary leading to a second medium. That's it. It must contain a different medium, different types of medium. Okay, so regardless of reflection or refraction, okay, we must use a medium. Okay, when we talk about there is a case of a lot of students having a mistakes or cannot understand why medium is very important in reflection. Okay, because they know about refraction. Okay, remember refraction is pembiasan. Okay, pembiasan and reflection is the pantulan. Okay, in the pembiasan, yes, okay, they can see clearly from the bending of straw. So there is a medium of air and also medium of water. So clear. But how about reflection? Okay, so it will be because of how it bounce off the first and also from the second medium. So you should know about this. Okay, so here we learn about geometrical optics. Okay, using a ray of approximation, a lot of approximation. Okay, to represent the beams of light. Okay, to represent the beams of light. So right now, okay, we want to draw a ray diagram using our understandings in terms of ray approximation. So ray of light is an imaginary line drawn along the directions of travel of the light beams. Okay, so this is the ray approximation, nothing much, but if you can see, this is a rays, okay, rays, and this one is the wave front, okay, wave front. Meaning that when it propagates to the forward position, propagating forward, so we can say wave travels, the rays are straight lines perpendicular to the wave front. Okay, the rays is actually perpendicular to the wave front. Okay, with the wave front, we can imagine it's like a piece of paper we put there, and then the rays is actually coming through perpendicular to that surface. Okay. So that's what we call as rays. So in the refraction of light, right, the incidence ray travels in the medium when it encounters a boundary with a second medium. Okay, remember this is a second medium and the first medium. The first medium where it comes off the incident ray, the part of the incident ray reflected back to the first medium. It means, okay, the backward into the first medium. Okay, right. Okay, this means it is directed backward into the first medium. When it encounters a boundary with the second medium, parts of the incident ray is reflected back into the first medium. Parts. So this is what we call as specular reflections. In the specular reflections, it should follows the law of reflection. Because before that, we should know about the law of reflection. What is the law of reflection? Theta I equivalent to theta R. Okay, incident, angle of incident equals to angle of reflection. So you should know about law of reflection. How can we know about law of reflection from this? Let's say the specular. Specular means, okay, reflection from a smooth surface. This is considered as smooth surface. Okay, the other surface like this one, rough surface. Okay, so this one is smooth surface. The reflected ray are parallel to each other. So when we have a lot of rays coming through to the surface, we can see that the incident angle. Okay, remember to draw a imaginary line that is called a principal axis ataupun we call that as the normal line. Okay, normal line. So this is the incident angle, theta I. So this is theta R. So every angle and the specular reflection is equivalent because it contains a lot of, it is a smooth surface where all the lights that comes through a very distant source, okay, will bounce or will reflect it through a certain angle and with but have a same or equal. Okay, so this is theta I, theta R. Again, this is also theta I and theta R. Okay, all reflection in the text is assumed to be specular. Diffuse reflection. Okay, diffuse reflection is also a reflection. Okay, but for the rough surface. Remember the rough surface. So the one that we use a smooth surface called specular. specular reflection, which is the smooth. Okay, but for diffuse, diffuse stands for rough. Permukaan yang kasar. Bila permukaan yang kasar, apa yang berlaku? Yes, it also follows the law of reflection. Nah, ini kena faham. It also follows law of reflection. Yes, sebab tu nama dia reflection. It still follows the law of reflection. But what is the difference between diffuse and specular? Yeah, look at here. Okay, let's say we have number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Okay, look at the ray number 1. Ray number 1 is coming through here, and if you look at the normal line, the difference is the normal line for each ray is not the same. Okay, therefore, if the ray is coming from the same source, but falls on the different kind of surface, so it will follow that thing. So this is theta I, and this is also theta R. What happened to this part? Yeah, this is theta I, and this is theta R. So look at here, theta I, theta R. Here, okay, theta I, theta R. Okay, that is due to the normal line. The normal line is actually not the same because the normal line should be 90 degrees to the surface. 90 degree to the surface. Okay, so that's why we call it as a diffuse reflection. Okay, so as I said, this is the law of reflection, you already know. So this is the normal line that I'm talking now, the normal line. Okay, this is the incident ray and this is the reflected ray. So please get to know all those angles. Okay. Okay, and this is the refraction of light. Okay, I don't want to go on this part first, the refraction of light, but you should know about the reflections of light. Okay, because in the reflections of light, okay, we can easily say that refractions of light is a pembiasan that is due to what? Okay, different in speed, okay, bending. When a ray of light traveling through a transparent medium encounters a boundary leading into transparent medium, part of the ray is reflected and part of the ray enters the second medium. Okay, part of the rays is reflected. Ada yang reflect, part of the ray enters the second medium. Okay. Tadi semua akan terreflect. Tapi yang ni dikatakan part is reflected and part is enters the second medium. The ray that enter the second medium is bent. Okay, at the boundary. Dia akan membengkok. Tapi bengkok ke arah mana? So kita kena tengok keadaan dia. Okay. So this is the incident ray. Because the refraction of light is based on the speed of light in the different medium. Okay, speed of light in the different medium. So in that case of the incident ray, the refracted ray, and the normal light are lie on the same plane. Okay, so ada normal dekat sini. This is normal. This is incident ray, reflected ray, and also refracted ray. Tengok, dalam refraction of light ada reflected juga. Still ada. And theta I is equivalent to theta I prime. Meaning that I prime dengan theta 1 and theta I1, theta prime 1 is equivalent. Because it should follow the law of reflection. But the refracted ray, the some part of the rays that entering the medium will be based on the properties, depends on the properties of the medium. Okay, properties of the medium. So what happened at the medium actually? So all rays are normalized are on the same plane. The refracted ray bend towards the normal because of V2. V2 meaning that speed at the glass medium. Glass. So here we have air, udara, and now we have glass. Okay, remember in air is based on the gas. Okay, and glass is solid. The difference between gas and solid is the arrangement of the atom. Atom in the gas is actually very rare, duduk jauh-jauh, while in the solid it duduk rapat-rapat. So apa yang berlaku when the rays try to enter that medium, so it becomes slower due to the arrangement of the atom in solid. Okay, becomes slower, and that's why we are saying V2 is less than V1. Okay, V2 is slower compared to V1. V2 value is lower compared to V1. So that's how it reflected, and because of that, it becomes slow. So it moved towards the normal line. It moved towards the normal line. So more about refraction. The angle of refraction depends upon the material and the angle of incident. Okay, so we don't want to go further on this part. Okay, yeah, I will go to this part, but now we go straight away to the mirror. Okay, mirror and lenses. Right. So the lesson outcome for the chapter 23, which is for the applications of mirror, because it should follow the law of reflections. So state the properties of image produced by the plane mirror. Identify the focal length of a concave and convex mirror. Okay, look here at the words of concave and convex mirror. Plane mirror. So this is a concave and convex. So plane is a plane, and the concave and convex is spherical mirrors. And draw the ray diagrams for mirror. Okay, draw. You must be able to draw, and you must be able to use the lens equation. Okay, to use the lens equation. Especially, normally we use mirror equation here. Okay, mirror equations at lens, with the correct sign convention for object distance, image distance, and focal length. So you should know back what is the convention for the object distance. Okay, normally we use U. Image distance, normally we use V, and the focal length. Try to remember it back. Okay, but don't forget, this is our terms that we use in the school days. Okay, normally in the object distance we just use DO. This one is I, and this one is F. Use the magnification equation with the correct sign convention for object distance, image distance, object height, image height, and the magnifications. Okay, object distance again DO, image distance DI, object height. Okay, we use HO. This one is HI, and the magnification is M. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So, according to the survey books, okay, a lot of we know for the object distance, okay, a lot of possibilities. We in the school days we use U. Okay, sometimes we will use DI and DO, and sometimes we use, in this case we use as P. Okay, different book will give you different notation, but all are the same. Okay, never mind. And how about for the image distance? This is object distance. The image distance, so they use V, DI, and Q. All are the same. This is the image distance. V, DI, and Q. And for the survey, we must use P and Q. Okay, for you, we must use the correct value. And the magnification is still the same, which is the M. Right? So the types of image, okay, images are classified as real or virtual. So we should talk about real or virtual. The real image are formed at the point the rays of light actually intersect. Okay, real image can be displayed on screen. But how about virtual image? Virtual image are formed at the point the rays of light appear to originate. Okay, the light appears to diverge from that point. The virtual image cannot be displayed. Okay, virtual images cannot be displayed on screen, but for the real image can be displayed. Okay, to find where an image is formed, it is always necessary to follow at least 2 rays of light. Okay, at least 2 rays. Now remember, yeah, whenever you've been asked to draw or to sketch the ray diagram, make sure you must have at least 2 rays. Okay, you cannot draw just 1 ray to form an image. Okay, it's wrong. Right? So the magnifications, okay, the magnifications is the lateral magnifications is defined as magnification M. So we use the image height. So in this book, we will use H prime. Okay, H prime over H. That means this is the object. So this is the image height. Okay, and of course, you must know something. The magnification doesn't always mean enlargement. Okay, sometimes it will also talk about become smaller. Yeah, the image becomes smaller. Okay, this is the what happens to the properties at the flat mirror. Okay, for the flat mirror, remember a flat mirror is like this, right? Where we can have object and we can have image. And the image is appear to be virtual because it should falls at the back of the mirror, not at the belakang mirror, tapi di dalam virtual mirror tu. Itu maksud dia. Okay, properties of the image can be determined by geometrical. So one ray starts at P, follow path PQ, and reflects back on itself. Okay, look at how they draw. First of all, okay, they will use P. So this is P object. So first, okay, go straight that way, and because of this is the mirror, so it reflected back. And okay, another ray is Q, PR. Okay, and when it reach at this point, it will also follows law of reflection. Okay, that means theta I equals to theta R. So it will reflect it. In this case, now this is how they did for the flat mirror. And of course, the distance of the P and the distance of the Q is the same for the flat mirrors. Okay, the properties of the image formed by a flat mirror. So first of all, the image is far behind the mirror as the object is in front. The image is unmagnified. Unmagnified, that means it cannot go big or cannot go small because it is a flat mirror. What you see is what you get. The image height is as the same as the object height, which is h prime. Okay, this is the image height, this is the object height, and the magnification should be equivalent to 1. Okay, the properties of the image are very important for the flat mirror. So the image should appear to be virtual because it falls. It should be at the back of the mirror. Okay, so it should be virtual. The image is upright, and okay, there is an apparent left-right reversal in the image. Okay, apparent left-right reversal. Okay, sometimes we call it as the lateral inverted. Okay, remember what is lateral inverted? That means you can see that the image when you're holding some cup, you go in front of the flat mirrors. Okay, let's say you hold the cup with your left hand, but in the image, okay, it appears to be that your image is holding the cup with the right hand. Okay, because it is a apparent left-right reversal, or sometimes we call it as a lateral. Okay, lateral inverted. Okay, lateral inverted. Okay, for the spherical mirrors, has the shapes of a segment of a sphere. Okay, a shape of a segment of a sphere. Okay, a concave spherical mirror. A concave spherical mirror has the silver surface of the mirror on the inner or concave side of the curve, and a convex spherical mirrors has the silver surface of the mirror on the outer of convex sides of the curve. Okay, so how to look at this is the concave mirror. Okay, the concave mirror is actually part of the, if you want to know, concave mirror or convex mirror is a part of the big circle, part of the big circle. If you remember, this is the how can you draw a center of curvature and so on. It's actually based on the very big circle like this. Okay, try to do it again. Like this, huh? Okay, something like that. So it's part of the big circles where at the center of the circle is called center of curvature. So that's why here is C. Okay, and half of the center of curvature is considered to be focal point. So this one is the focal point. Focal point is where it's actually a half of the center of curvature. Okay, so for the concave mirror, center of is called center of curvature, while point V is the center of the spherical segment. A line drawn from C to V is the called principal axis. Okay, it's very important that there is a principal axis. Okay, di tengah-tengah. Okay, this is called principal axis. Right? Okay. So let's look at how they calculate or how they get the how they trace the ray diagram for the convex concave mirrors. Okay, later on. Okay, a point source of light is placed at O. Let's say it's placed at O. Rays are drawn from O. Okay, after reflecting from the mirror, the rays converge. Converge means dia menguncup. Converge at point I. Okay, remember, any point of source of light of source, when it try to hit the mirror, okay, the mirror will give you the concepts of uh, reflections. Okay, because mirror is the applications of the reflections where you want to. Here is the angle. So this is theta I, and a little bit here is theta R. Okay, so after it go through the mirror, it will reflect it through the focal point. And of course, there is another point where it also hits at the same point, okay, on the principal axis. So at that point, we know that that is a focal point. Okay, rays are generally assumed to make small angle with the mirror. When the rays make large angles, they may converge to points other than the image point. This result is in the blur image. Okay, the effect is called spherical aberration. So you should know about the terms used in the spherical of the aberrations. What is the difference between this picture and another figure before this? Here, okay, in here, all rays coming from O, semua daripada O tu akan reflected through a point. Dia akan datang kepada satu point dan dia reflected kat situ. Okay, dia reflected dekat cermin dan dia akan pergi kepada satu point. Sama juga dengan O, dia pergi kat satu point mana-mana dan dia akan reflected dekat tempat yang sama yang C tadi. So, berbeza dengan spherical aberrations, there is no converge at points other than image point. Maksudnya dia tidak pergi kepada satu point yang sama. Okay. So the image formed by a concave mirrors. Okay. The equations we use is the 1 over P equivalent to 1 over P plus 1 over Q equivalents to 2 over R. 2 over R. Okay, so it's called mirror equations. And the magnifications is again is equivalent to H prime, which means the height of the image over the height of the objects, equivalent to negative QP. Okay, negative Q. What is Q? Q is the image distance. Okay, what is the image distance? Okay, the distance between image and also the between from image to the mirrors. Okay, and from image to the mirrors, and P is the object distance. Okay, what is the object distance? The distance between objects to the mirror. Okay, simple. Okay, the focal length, if an object is very far away, then the focal point should be infinity. Okay, the object distance should be infinity, where 1 over infinity is equivalent to 0. Incoming rays are essentially parallel. In this special case, the image point is called the focal point. Okay, the distance from the mirror to the focal point is called the focal length. Okay, remember where is the focal point and where is the focal length. So try to differentiate between this term, focal point and focal length. Focal point is the point where all the incoming rays are parallel, the coming rays parallel to the principal axis must, after it go through the mirror, after it comes to the mirror, it will reflect it at one point. Okay, it will reflect it at one point, and that point is called focal point. And the focal length is the distance between the mirror to the focal point. Simple. Okay, and obviously, when we calculated, the focal point is actually half of the center of curvature. Okay, half of the center of curvature. So which means center of curvature, from center of curvature to the mirror, we call that as the radius. Okay, so half of the radius is called focal length. Okay. So, like I said, afterwards, before this, we learned about mirror equations, 1 over P. Okay, 1 over P plus 1 over Q equivalent to 1 over F. Before this, we learned about 1 over P plus 1 over Q equals to 2 over R. Okay, 2 over R is actually 1F. 1 over F, because half of the R. Okay, half of the R, half of the radius. So we can change this from this one. Okay, 1 over P plus 1 over Q equivalent to 1 over F. What is P? Object distance, image distance, and F is the focal point. Focal length, sorry, focal length. Okay, and of course, convex mirrors is sometimes called a diverging mirrors. Okay, convex is very special because it can call diverging. Diverging is a very capah, mencapah. Mirror dia mencapah. The rays from any point of the object diverge after reflection, and the the properties of the convex mirrors is like the image form must be, regardless of where you put the although here or di belakang ke macam-macam mana pun, the image formed by the object is always first virtual. How can we know that the object is always virtual? Because in mirror, when the object falls, okay, not on the same side as the image fall not on the same side as the object, okay, it becomes virtual. Simple. That means apa-apa yang ada di belakang, okay, ini depan, front, mirror, so this one is back. Okay, this one is front, right? So nampak, oh, image dia duduk di situ. Okay, that is the image. That means the image is always virtual, upright, and the position is behind the mirror. Okay, behind the mirror. And if you look carefully at the convex mirror, okay, the center of curvature is actually is on that side. It's on the back of the mirror. Okay, because in the convex mirror, okay, it should be like this. So the center should be bigger, bigger. Okay. So this is the end of the root. So half of the center is called focal point. Look at every rays that involve, here we have red rays and also blue ray. Okay, red and also blue, that can give you image. Okay, the image is virtual, upright, and diminished. The correct way is virtual, upright, and lastly dia makin kecil diminish. Okay, kita boleh tulis juga kalau dia besar dia jadi enlarge, ataupun you can say that is should be biasanya enlarge lah kita boleh. For convex mirrors, the equation for convex mirrors are the same as the concave mirrors, which means need to use a sign convention. A positive sign is used where the light is in front of the mirror, and the negative sign is used behind the mirror. Okay. So the diagram for signs. Okay. Let's say this is the front of the mirrors, and this is the back of the mirrors. Okay, so what happens is P and Q are positive. This is the incident light, the reflected light. And for the back of the mirrors, okay, it should be virtual. Okay, or P and Q are negative, no light. Okay, P and Q are negative. Okay, so this is another sign convention for mirrors. Okay, another sign convention. You should, everybody, I think this is the good conventions. If you can memorize all the sign conventions for mirrors and also lens afterwards. The sign convention for mirrors and lens is based on the quantity, which is the object locations. If you look at the words, when we put object, okay, in front of the mirrors, what happened? When in front of mirrors, the value should be positive. While if you put the object at the back of the mirror, it becomes negative. Okay. How about the image location? The image location in front of the mirror is positive, in the back of the mirror is negative. How about focal length? The focal length at the in front of the object is considered to be positive, and the if the focal length is on the other side, which is at the back of the mirror, it becomes negative. Okay, how about the image height? The upright image, positive. Inverted image, negative. Okay, the magnification is when the upright image is positive and the inverted image is negative. Okay, so try to memorize all these sign conventions. Okay, it will help you later on. Definitely, it will help you in the final, inshallah. Okay, and how to draw a ray diagram. How to draw a ray diagram. So drawing a ray diagram, you need to use this kind of course, the rays in the ray diagram are divided into three: ray 1, ray 2, and ray 3. Okay, ray 1 is what? Drawn parallel to the principal axis and is reflected back through the focal point. And ray 2 is drawn through the focal point, okay, and is reflected parallel. Okay, ray 1 parallel to the principal axis and is reflected back through the focal point. Dia terbalik dengan ray 2. Ray 2 pula dia pergi focal point dulu, tetapi dia reflected parallel dengan principal axis. Okay, try to do it on your own. Macam mana nak buat ni? And ray 3 is drawn through the center of curvature and is reflected back on itself. Okay. Note that the changes in the image as the object moves through the focal point. Okay, the three different positions if the object is greater than R. Okay, greater than R means greater than center of curvature, or here. Okay, P, or the object distance is less than the focal point. Less than the focal point, so we will use concave mirror. Normally concave mirror ni sama macam bentuk convex lens. Okay, lens and mirror are two different applications. Okay, this is the ray diagram. Okay, ray diagram. So in here, at least we must draw two ray diagrams. Good enough. Okay, two main diagram or main ray we should use is number one, that is parallel to the principal axis. So this is number one, parallel to the principal axis, and it will reflected. This one, reflected rays. Okay, that is a reflected ray. How can you know? Here, from here, okay? Because this is theta I equals to theta R. Okay, angle of incident equals to angle of reflected, and it will reflected through the point, focal point. How about focal point? This number two, the green one. Okay, and the number two, the rays go through exactly at the focal point first, and then after it will reflect, it will reflect back. Okay, but should follow the parallel to the principal axis. Okay, in this case, if P is greater than R, P is greater than R, so that means where is R? This is R. R is the distance between mirror and also center of curvature. So that is considered as R. Okay, so the object becomes real. First of all, real, the image is inverted and the image is smaller than the object. That's how they want to represent, smaller. Alright, so let's look at the ray diagram for the concave mirror. First of all, where is number one? That blue color here. This is number one. First, you go through straight to the according to the principal axis, and at this point, it will follow the law of reflection. It will reflect it back. Okay, it will reflect it back at this part. And look at how the green color. Okay, remember this is the concave mirror. Still the concave mirror, but the object is on the same side as the front mirror. Okay, same side as the front mirror. But how can you depend? In here, we will get, okay, the image getting out now is not a real image, but it's a virtual image. Okay, virtual image, because it falls behind the mirror. Okay, behind the mirror, then the objects either is upright or diminished, upright or inverted, it still give you something else. Okay, the object is between the mirrors and the focal point. Focal point kecil kan. So in this case nampak kan nombor 2 macam mana tu, dia akan pergi atas dulu, dia akan buat law of reflection, lepas tu dia buat straight line. Okay, and of course it still follows the angle of incident and angle of reflected. Okay, the image is larger, upright and virtual. Remember, first sama ada apa? Real or virtual. Okay, one is upright or inverted. Okay, and another one is large, okay, or diminished. Okay, real, virtual, upright, inverted, or large, diminished. Okay, so the image is larger than the object. The image is upright compared to objects. Okay, the image is virtual because it falls under, it falls beyond the mirror. Okay, so the ray diagram for a convex mirror is slightly different. Okay, because the ray of diagram of the convex mirror, the center of curvature or the focal point falls on the other sides of the mirror, falls on the mirror, the back of the mirror. So, in other words, okay, when you want to calculate it, okay, this is very good in terms of knowing how to calculate it. So first, okay, you draw the first line. Okay, this one is the parallel to principal axis, and at this point, okay, it will give theta I over theta R. Okay, that means still follow the properties of the reflections, and it will extrapolate to the point at the back of the mirror. So in this case, the properties is virtual, upright, and smaller ataupun diminished, mengecil. Okay, and the diagram for the convex mirror is always like this, because regardless of where you put, okay, You cannot simply put here because it will also give you another answers, another the same characteristics of image. Okay, because all the center of curvature or focal point is on the other sides of the mirror. Okay, so with a concave mirror, the image may be either real or virtual when the object is outside the focal point. So you can read on your own on this part. Okay. All right. So this is the images formed by a concave mirror. So assume a certain concave spherical mirrors has a focal length of, so this one should be f. Okay, and locate the image and find the magnification for an object distance of 25 centimeters. So this should be p. Determine whether the image is real or virtual, inverted or upright, and larger or smaller. Do the same object distance of 10 centimeters and 5 centimeters. Okay, so they want us to calculate the to determine whether the image is real or virtual, inverted or upright, or larger or smaller. That is number one. That means they want to know the properties of the image. Right. And number two is do the same for object distance 10 centimeters and 5 centimeters. So how to do? So must start with the things or the mirror equation. So this is the mirror equations. 1 over P plus 1 over Q equals to 1 over F. It's a very general equation, and if the value is negative or positive, it doesn't include here because that is the only general equation involved. Sometimes in the other books, they will give you 1 over P plus 1 over Q equals to negative 1 over F. That is due to the focal length is negative. Don't bother about it because this is the general equation. A general equation. But remember, if you want to use the general equation, to use also the sign convention. Never mind. If you want to use the general equation, must use with the sign convention. Remember. Okay, so we have 1 over 25 centimeters. In this case, to make it comfortable, you can leave your answers in the meters, not in the centimeters. Okay, so try to do it in the meters. Try to do it in the SI unit, because sometimes they are very particular about it. Okay, I know the answer is correct, but please, okay, use the SI unit. So 25 centimeters, 1 plus 1 over Q equals to 1 over 10 centimeters. The answer is 16.7 centimeter. And right, so from this part, okay, try to imagine the object is real or virtual. Now we know about the object distance. Okay, the object distance, and the magnification is negative 0.668. Okay, that means the object is smaller, or in this case, Q is the image distance, and P is the object distance. Okay, so in order to do that, so this is part A. We look at part A first. In the part A, find the image positions. So the answer is to be, okay, for a concave mirror, the answer is what? Okay, focal length F, and the distance is 25, right? So at part A, the answer is real. Okay, the object is real. Inverted or upright, definitely. If the object is real, then it should be virtual. Sorry, real, it should be inverted. Okay, but normally real must be inverted. And how about the magnifications? Become negative. Smaller. Okay, because the magnification is less than 1, so it is smaller. That's how you answer it. Okay. For locate the image distance when the object distance is 10 centimeters. So remember, now we put F. Okay, we put F is 10 centimeters. So 1 over Q equivalent to 1 over Q equivalent to 0 because we bring these things to that part. So 1 over Q becomes 0. So Q is infinity. So the image distance at when the object is also 10 centimeters is considered to be infinite. And the magnification when the Q is infinite, M is also infinite. Okay. Okay, and then part C, locate the image distance when the object distance is 5 centimeters, calculated, right? Okay, calculate the magnification and describe the image. So 1 over 5 plus 1 over Q equivalent to 1 over 10, and then you will get Q equals to negative 10 centimeters. Negative 10 meaning that the image distance is at the back of the mirror, di belakang. So when you put inside the magnification, it becomes positive. The positive value is actually the image is larger. Okay, larger. And upright. Definitely when it is a virtual, so it is upright. So the answer is, in this case, we calculated back. So this is a virtual infinity. Okay, the image is virtual, upright or diminished, it doesn't matter. We cannot see whether it's upright or diminished, or whether it's upright or inverted, and definitely it's a infinite. But for C, part C, okay, the characteristics of the image, first of all, it is a virtual, it is a upright and larger. Okay, sure. So that is how you answer it. Okay, so let's look at the last example. I think do all, but this is the last example. An object 3 centimeters high is placed 20 centimeters from a convex mirror. Look here, this is convex mirror with a focal length of magnitude 8 centimeters. Okay, find the positions of the image, the magnifications of mirror, and the height of the image. So again, we will use a lot of mirror equations. Okay, you put all the value, but in here, look at how they put the focal length. Okay, this is a convex mirror. Convex mirror will have a focal point of negative. So that's why when you put here, you put negative 8. Now we know that Q will give you negative 5.7. That means it falls on the other sides or at the back of the mirror. So the magnification becomes positive. Okay, the height of the image is 0.858. It's slightly bigger compared, smaller. Okay, find the height. So the answer for that part is the position of the image is negative 5.71 centimeters. So you can write down in meters. The magnification is 0.286 and the height of the image is 0.858 centimeters. Okay. You look at the last examples. Find a local length when a woman stands with her face 40 centimeters from a cosmetic mirror, and the upright image is twice as tall as her face. What is the focal length of the mirror? Twice as tall as her face. So magnifications, remember, negative Q over P is considered to be 2. Magnification 2. Okay, and when you want to calculate F, so you need to apply of 1 over F equals to 1 over P plus 1 over Q. Okay, where Q is the negative 2P. Okay, based on this one. Okay, Q is negative 2P. You bring up, and P is actually 40 centimeters. Okay, 40 centimeters, and then we can get negative 80 centimeters. Okay, negative 80 centimeters. The value is actually at the back of the mirrors. Okay, and then afterwards, when you put inside the mirror equation, you will get 80 centimeters. So that's how they calculated focal length. When you have Q, you have P, so you put inside the equations, you have 80 centimeters. Okay.